What's up everyone and welcome to the Draft Dynasty channel. So the people have voted in the last video and Noel Gunler was the winner. It was pretty close between Bordelot and the Hidden Gem, but Gunler was the favorite. Let's jump into the video. I have a lot of clip on him and I really think you're gonna like this episode on Noel Gunler. First of all, he's one of the older player in the draft, 6'2", 174 pounds, so he's a pretty big body. Let's take a quick look at his stat, and he played almost all year in the SHL, one of the best league in the world, so it's pretty impressive for a young player like that to play at that level. He finished the year with 13 points, with a very limited role, probably like a fourth line or third line with limited power play time. But the most impressive year was last year. I think not a lot of people know that, but he really crushed it in his draft -1 in the Super Elite League. 27 goals, 46 points in only 31 games, and we're gonna compare that with the premium tool on Elite Prospect. Alright, so here we are. So I put draft -1, so last year minimum 10 game, and I put all the entire league history, so almost 30 years ago, 1990-91, and he ranked 4th amongst point per games. Very good. He finished above Lucas Raymond last year and Alexander Holtz too as well. But the most impressive thing, I think, it's the goal per game. So if you look here, he got 27 goals in 31 game. This is the best ratio of goal per game in the history of the league. The second best ratio is Alexander Holtz. So this year in the 2020 draft, we have the two best goal scorer probably coming out of Sweden. And we can do the same thing with the SHL for last year, because Noel Gunler played 15 game last year in the SHL. So if we do draft -1, 10 game minimum for the forward, you can see in point per game, he ranked second all time, ahead of Daniel Sedin and Henrik Sedin. You also have Lucas Raymond in here. I guess my point is he had an amazing year last year, and I don't think many people talk about him that much, considering he crushed it in his draft -1. You will be looking at the number 8. Alright, so let's roll some footage, and if you're a regular on my channel, you should know the drill by now. We're gonna start with the thing I like the most about him, and with him, of course, he's an amazing goal scorer. He's got a great shot, great release, but I'm gonna go a bit more in detail and explain why I think he's such an effective goal scorer and why I think it's gonna translate to the next level. No matter where he's gonna play, he's gonna score. So the number one thing I like about his game, it's his ability to take his shot in high danger area. So all of his shots are always really close to the net. He also, every time he can, he's gonna drive the net, go around there. He's always close to the slot, and on top of that, he's really good at screening the goalie as well, taking rebound, deflection in front of the net. He's a pretty big body and he's not that easy to move, even though he's not fully mature physically yet. He has some growing to do. He's pretty strong in front of the net. Overall, I think it's an area of the game that is often overlooked. People don't really focus on that, but it's not that easy to improve, because you have some players that are always shooting from a distance. They're not good at getting in those high danger area, and it's not like a switch that you can turn on and off. You need to be crafty offensively. You need to be able to navigate and know where to go in those spots. So it's not all the players that are able to figure that out. Some player will never be able to do it, and it's just nice to see that he already is able to figure that part of the game. And if we compare him, let's say, to Alexander Holtz, they're both great shooter. I would give the edge a little bit to Alexander Holtz. I think his shot might be a little bit better in movement as well. But in terms of, if you add the shot selection and the area where they're taking their shot, I think Noel Gunler is much better. So he's taking shot up close, much closer. The distance of his shot are much closer to Alexander Holtz. So for that reason, I think Gunler might be a more consistent goal scorer early on in his career than Alexander Holtz. Maybe if Holtz figure it out and add that to his game, he's gonna eventually be a better goal scorer than Gunler. But as of right now, from what I've seen, I think Gunler is gonna be a more effective goal scorer at the NHL level earlier in his career, especially. And the big difference, I think, is gonna be the kind of the garbage goal, the easy goal closer to the net, rebound, deflection, the ugly goal kind of. He's gonna get more of them, I think, than Alexander Holtz. So far, I haven't shown too many goals, but I wanted to show more the process. Now we're gonna see the result, what happened when you consistently take a good shot in dangerous area. A lot of good things happen.
Får mot ett läge, Konstantin Komarek vidare för Noel Gunler, och Gunler kommer fri och det gör mål!
Off the boards, passes across, lots of space in front. Gunler scores.
The shooter right there. Lundqvist, and Lundqvist just...
På sin osynlighetsmantel, för jag såg ingen honom. Här är Gunler som spelar till Petter Emanuelsson.
Turns around and tried to find Heldner with a pass. He overskated it. Here's Noel Gunler on a break. Stopped by Stefan. At the line, is it in?
The net, his momentum in tracking the breakaway brings him into...
As you can see, he was able to score a few nice goals up close during the year in the SHL, the pro level, but he has the type of shot that's good enough that he would be able to beat goaler consistently from a distance. He has an elite shot, so that makes it even better when he shoots from close. He's gonna be almost impossible to stop from a short distance. Okay, so enough with the goals. Let's switch it up, and there's a subject that I want to touch right away, because he's been labeled kind of the Arthur Kaliev of this year draft, maybe a bit inconsistent, lazy at time, not good defensively, and I'm gonna say it right away, I think it's not true at all. From the game I've watched, he is nowhere near close Kaliev. Kaliev is insanely lazy and inconsistent. I've watched him a lot, and I think it's not fair at all to compare those two, especially for the work ethic. Gunler is working way harder, and defensively he's trying a lot more in his zone. He's actively trying some stuff. Yes, he does make some mistake here and there, but at least he has the willingness and like the work ethic much more than Arthur Kaliev. Another thing to keep in mind, Gunler went from probably playing 20 minutes per game in the Super Elite to playing around 10 minutes per game in the SHL, and if you've played the game, it's a lot harder to stay in the flow, stay focused on your game when you're not playing as much. Sometimes it feels like when the more you're playing, the easier it is to play. And for a player, let's say like Gunler, that was used to be the star player on his team, now becoming a fourth line player, it's not that easy to adapt to that. So maybe it took him a bit of time, because earlier in the year, yes, it's true, he was sometime less visible when I was watching the game. He had a few games that he barely touched the puck, but I did watch a lot of games toward the end of the year, and I had nothing bad to say about his work ethic. Almost zero bad shift, always good effort, always moving on the ice, and never lazy, not a lot of mental mistake. So I think he fixed a lot of the bad stuff people were talking about. I think he worked on that, and he was much better toward the end of the year. I do think that people are way too hard on him. His defensive side of the game is not bad at all, his intensity as well, and we need to take into account that it's a much harder league than the other junior player. Just for example, there's a game I was watching where he made a mistake with 14 minutes left in the period, and the mistake cost a goal, and after that he didn't play the rest of the period, and the game after that I think he played 2 minutes, and this is with one last shift at the end, 1 minute shift at the end, with the game over with a 3-goal lead with the other team. So try to put yourself in the perspective of the player. There's a lot of additional pressure that you have on you, and it's much easier to lose confidence that way. For example, if we take Jacob Perreault, the last video I made, he got scored 81 goals again at even strength. So imagine if he was benched every time he made a mistake, he probably would not have played much during the year. For the next clip, I'm gonna show you a few of his defensive ability, so positioning, back check, decision making in his zone. So, and I'm gonna let you decide what you think about his defensive game. And while we watch the clip, I'm gonna go with my NHL player comparison. So I'm gonna go with 3 players. First of all, Rickard Rakell, another guy from Sweden, a good goal scorer. Also, he reminds me a little bit of Brock Besser. Both of those guys are not blazing fast. They have pretty good shot as well. So I see a similar role with him. And finally, Brett Connolly, another guy that was supposed to be a super good prospect. Still a decent player, but he didn't turn out to be the player he was projected to be. But yeah, there's a similarity in their game. Now, in terms of NHL projection, I think it's possible that he become a 35 plus goal scorer, maybe 30 assists. He's not the best playmaker in the world. I see him more maybe as a complementary player. He's gonna need someone to set him up a little bit. He's not the type of player really that makes people around him better necessarily. Still, he's gonna be a super useful player to a team, I think, especially on the power play. In terms of NHL readiness and when I think he's gonna be able to make the switch to the NHL, I think he's closer than maybe people think. If he maybe falls into the right team, a team that is not really deep on the wing, and he has a really good camp, he's someone that would be my dark horse to make the team right from the camp. It's not impossible if he progress well during the summer. He's pretty close to the NHL. Other than that, I think what's gonna happen is gonna stay 1 year in the SHL with a much better role, and the year after that he's gonna be able to jump right in the NHL. Another subject about Noel Gunler, he's a player that I had quite a hard time to figure out. So I watched 10 games earlier during the year, and there was some good and bad. The bad stuff that I was a little bit worried, there was the explosion. His first few steps are not that great. He has a pretty good top speed. I'm gonna show some clip about his skating later in the video. Other than that, of course, you have the intensity level, consistency, decision making, defensive awareness. Those were all things that I was looking for when I was watching the game later in the year, and in almost all the category that I was a bit worried, I saw some pretty big improvements. So he's a player that I'm gonna bump in my ranking quite a bit, and now he's gonna be closer to the top 10. He was more around mid first round. Now I'm gonna have him probably closer to top 10, maybe even in late top 10. I'm not sure yet. So this is it for the defensive clip. So I don't know about you, but I think he's doing a pretty good job. The intensity level is there. Decisions are not that bad. There's a lot of A++ back check in there. So I was pretty impressed with the way he was playing defensively toward the end of the year. So I wouldn't say he's a bad player at all defensively. He's pretty good one. Let's take a look now at his skating ability. And again, this is an area that I was pleasantly surprised because I wasn't sold on his skating at first with the 10 game I watched earlier in the year. As the season went on, he really progressed with his skating. Of course, the acceleration and the first few steps are not that great. He doesn't have the separation gear, but his top speed is pretty good, and his agility too. His agility is pretty good for his size. I'm gonna try and highlight his progression during the year with his skating ability. So this, what you're looking right now, is a game way earlier during the year. So take a look at his acceleration, top speed, and all the following clips are gonna be recent ones. So try to see if you notice something. For me personally, I think the first thing, there's a little bit more power behind his stride. I can tell that when he pushed, there's a bit more power, so he's gotten stronger, I feel like. And the other thing, and this is the most important one, when you don't have the best acceleration in the world, the number one thing you need to do to counter that is try to always be in movement. You don't want to get caught with your pants down being static on the ice. You always want to have a little bit of speed and movement and momentum, so you don't have to start from zero. So this is a way to counter the acceleration, the first few steps. And for those that are into scouting and they like to evaluate player, this is something that you need to be very careful, because it's one thing to evaluate, let's say, the skating of a player, but after that you need to watch and see what they're doing with it. And for Noel Gunler, he might not be the best skater in the world, but he's doing a very good job maximizing his skating and doing the most with what he has. But if you take, for example, the last video I made on Jacob Perreault is for sure hands down a better skater than Noel Gunler. It's not even close in terms of technique, acceleration, everything. Jacob Perreault is much better. But in terms of how they use their skating ability, it's much closer, because Noel Gunler is a much more effective skater with what he has to work with versus Jacob Perreault, who is rarely going 100%. It's rare that you see him putting the pedal to the metal. You could easily make mistake if you only watch, let's say, the technique and how they skate. You need to take into account how effective they are with it. Let's change it up and take a look at the thing that he could improve in the next couple of years. So first of all, of course, we already talked about the first few steps. Acceleration is something that he's gonna need to improve. Other than that, I think his stick handling could be better, especially for a guy that is ranked so high. I think he's a little bit behind in terms of dexterity, puck skills. He's behind the top player, I would say. So this is something he could improve. He has a lot of attributes that are elite, but I think his hands and his puck skill are pretty average. And there's a lot of time where I saw him struggle just with a simple pass reception. The puck would fumble on his stick. So overall, just his puck control needs to be a bit sharper, and it's gonna help him along the way. Again, I just want to say that it's nothing major. It's just when you compare him to the absolute top player in the draft that he's a little bit behind, but he still has pretty good puck skill. And I'm gonna include as well a few clips where he demonstrates good puck ability.
Många HV-spelare som har varit inne länge. Gunler och 7-3 Luleå. Nu blir det 7-3. Gunler. Ja,
Alright, so we're gonna finish the video with his playmaking ability, and I said earlier that he was not the best playmaker in the world, especially this year. There's a ton of good playmaker. He's kind of falling a little bit short on that. He's able to make a pretty good pass, but I would say overall he's pretty inconsistent. Sometimes he's gonna miss easy pass, easy read that he's not really gonna be able to see, but other time he's gonna surprise you with a very good pass and a good read. So I think overall he's just a slightly above or just an average playmaker, especially this year if you compare him to the other top dog in the draft like Lafreniere, Byfield, Stützle, Perfetti, Rossi, Raymond. Those are all players that make their teammate better around them. They're gonna elevate their teammate games with their playmaking ability. With Gunler, it's not really the case. He's good, but he's not on the level where he's gonna make other people around him much better. With all that said, I still want to show some of the good passes that he made because, like I said earlier, it's more about inconsistency with him. He's able to make some good passes sometimes. It's not all bad. So I want to highlight those good passes as well. While you keep on watching his playmaking ability, I'm gonna take the time to explain my master plan for future video. So since the draft is likely gonna be early in June, I want to do a bit more video. I'm gonna try to pump up some content, maybe do a video every 2 days. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do that, but there's a lot of players that already have the clip. I just need to put them together. For the next video, since people like to vote for their player, I'm gonna give you again 3 choices. So the first one, again, I'm gonna keep Thomas Bordelot, and we're gonna add Ozzy Weisblatt, and we're gonna still keep the hidden gem. So write down in the comment below who you would like to see. And finally, if you have watched all the video and you are not subscribed yet, I would suggest you do so. Click on the subscribe button. I take really good care of my subscribers, and I'm really committed to be one of the best places for you to go and get some information about the draft player this year. I want to be one of the best places out there. That's my goal. You can also follow me on Twitter. Look at this new animation that I got. Pretty sweet. Anyway, guys, see you on the next episode. Bye.